Well, good afternoon, family. How are you all again? Thank you for having us again. My name is Elliott McCants, sitting in for Sister Audrey Muhammad, who was on vacation until she decides to come back. So we're going to hold her down until she gets there. This is my daughter, once again, Lolade McCants. She's here hanging out with us for at least one or two more episodes until, it's time for school. I have another niece that's outside of the picture. So she's sitting over there hanging out with us as well. Again, these views are mine and not anyone else's. So we thank you all for showing up and helping us out. Good evening, Miss Nancy Adams, and good evening, little mama. We appreciate y'all showing up on the show. Now, I know I was given a request for a very special show. That show will air next week. Um, because I want to make sure I'm really thoroughly prepared for the subject matter. So I know my sister's going to be a little bit upset. The show is going to be about resistance, and we'll be. I want to make sure I'm really thoroughly prepared for that show. But this, what we're going to try and finish up today, goes along with what we've been talking about with education, propaganda, and today we're going to talk a little bit maybe about education and psychology and kind of try and tie it all together. Okay. So I'm going to say this again. Please understand that real, true education takes place outside the classroom. It's a deal for me. And I think for many scholars, because that I know, the passion that they have for learning, especially their history, culture, and many other things, didn't take place inside the classroom because the classroom, the building has an agenda, the district has an agenda. So some things may be interjected, but a lot of stuff has to be learned and incorporated in one's life outside of the classroom. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about psychology. Um, I have a few texts here as usual. So one important text, and one of my teachers, and I haven't seen him in a very long time, uh, is Dr. Naeem Akbar, and he wrote a book called "Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery," and it's also been entitled "Chains and Images of Psychological Slavery." And this book is about 70 pages long, pretty easy read, but it also gives some ways that we're inculcated with this other cultural idea, and ways that once we recognize them, then we have ways that we can break them. Because we're always talking about mental health. Every time you turn around, that's a new catchphrase: mental health. Unplug, unwind, do a myriad of other things, even if that means going to a therapist in order to get your head right. Well, part of it is also being able to say and see that if I'm involved in something that's not mine, then that whatever that is taking me over. A lot of what we don't do anymore is we don't read, which helps the mind and brain relax as well as to learn. If we did more reading, that would be helpful. But we get where we want to watch things on video, whether it be Netflix or whatever streaming channels that you like, and those are not horrible, but those are not as reflective as they could be if we were reading books. I particularly care to read about the culture from which I come from. So vast majority of my library is historical documentation of all kinds. That doesn't mean I don't have teacher stuff. That doesn't mean I don't have other literature. Um, I do, and I find it because it's historical, it's important. But I'm a historian to the degree that I am. So those are the books that I have in my library. So, and a lot of times I've suggested books on here that, I mean, I've been yet to see some of my family say that they got. So hopefully that happens and you go ahead on and you start to build your library, because it's going to be helpful for not only you, but also for your children and anybody else around, because that gives you other things to talk about other than what's on TV. So I'm going to read a little bit about this book. And on the back, it says Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery by Dr. Naeem Akbar. Are African Americans still slaves? Why can't black folks get together? What is the psychological consequences for blacks and whites of picturing their savior as some race other than theirs? Learn how to break the chains of your mental slavery with this book by one of the world's most outstanding experts on the African American mind. Let me mention another person that I found his book and pamphlet. His name is Dr. Bobby Wright. And he wrote a book called The Psychopathic Racial Personality. I had a copy, I have several copies of it, and I've got to find them again because I believe that there were people that I allowed to read them and they wanted to borrow them. And of course, they didn't return them back to the library. So when I repurchase those books, they won't leave. But that little 32-page pamphlet, very, very powerful text as well. Helped you see some things, help you understand some things, help you become very, very clear about what it is that you're dealing with. All right. Thank you all, everybody, for joining in. So far, we appreciate you. So those are some tools that we can use to fight and become very clear about who we are and what we're dealing with. Another book, and this book was mentioned in, I think, the movie Boomerang with Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence when they were playing pool. In that scene on the pool, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, the ISIS Papers. And it was mentioned in that movie. I think it was Boomerang that they was mentioning. And they talked about where they were playing pool and why the black ball's got to be the last one on the table and get hit by the wall. That type of psychology. But if you read her book, she talks about the psychology of what we're dealing with in this country, right? How we're dealing with it, what it is that we're dealing with our children in school, what it is we're dealing with outside of school. How is it that we're supposed to maneuver in a society that doesn't really want us to maneuver the way we should? So this is another book. Get it. Make sure you have it. Okay, somebody said, little mama said they got that book. I need to finish reading it. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Which book is that? The Francis Cress Welsing book. If you got it, finish reading it. Yes, good, good. Make sure you finish reading it. Now, I'm going to go back a little bit in time. There's this brother that I love his books. His name is Frantz Fanon. One book that he wrote is called Black Face, White Mask. He wrote a series of 4 books. He's from Algeria, and he wrote about psychology. He was a psychologist from Algeria. And when he put these books out, they shortly arrested him, and of course, he died in jail. But here, I'm not sure if you can see, that's a picture of him, right? That's Frantz Fanon. This particular book is called A Critical Study by a lady named Irene Ginsder. And she wrote a book on him about how he was his foremost psychologist and sociologist, and that his books were very impactful and they should be read. Make sure you get anything by him, Richard of the Earth, Black Face, White Mask. Put them in your library. Put them in your library. That's right. Professor Griff talks about him all the time. You're absolutely right. Thank you. So Frantz Fanon, very, very important psychologist. Dr. Amos Wilson, very, very important psychologist. I mentioned him last week. And I'm going to bring this book back up because we do, we got to put together a book list for you. This is called Blueprint for Black Power. Once again, it's about our culture that's helping us to navigate through not only this world, but other parts of the world. Very important. He wrote a few other books as well. And I'm trying to put all of his books in my library. I've got two, but I'm trying to put them all in my library because he's important. Another social psychologist was, and he's since passed on, but Dr. Jacob Crothers. This particular book is called The Meta Nature, Divine Speech, but he wrote Intellectual Warfare, which I let one of my brothers borrow it, and of course it has not returned. So I'm gonna have to try and see if I can find another copy of the book. So, we all have very many voices out here in the world that talk about many different things. The thing is, we just have to be able to gather as much of that information that we possibly can and use it to our advantage. It's okay to watch stuff on video, but go by the text, go by the books so that you have something solid. you know, and for young men, I found this book that I haven't seen in a few years that was given to me by one of my teachers, and it's called Positive African American Men United. So a cultural revolution establishing the one code of honor for men. I'm not sure if the men that I received this book from are still around. I hope and pray that they are, because when I received this book, oh wow, this is in 1995 at a National Association of Black Social Workers presentation. I think I might have even been part of the presentation that long ago. And I have this book. It was written by Mr. Sidney Wingfield back in '95. So good book to have if you can find it. If he's still around, check him out. Hopefully he is still around. Make sure you get it. Now, do we all have any questions so far? All right. Post-traumatic, absolutely. The Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Dr. DeGry, absolutely great book. Great book. Yeah, I have that as well. And the workbook. The workbook is nice too. So if you get the book, get the workbook as well, so that you have them both to be able to work in conjunction with each other to help us really understand what it is that we're truly dealing with things in the world. Because I think many times we walk around here and think that we're not dealing with anything, and that what we're dealing with is normal, and it's not. It's not normal. Oh, it's part of this culture, it's that culture. Nah, we influence the cultures of the world, whether we understand that or not. And I've seen that happen in other countries and other parts of the world, that we do influence culture. We do. But all of the time, some of the things that we're influential in, then they're quasi-cultural. They're not real cultural things. They're just stuff that we've adopted, and we just go ahead on and act like it's part of a culture because we change things. But then at the same time, oh yes, sir, you're absolutely right. We do have generations of trauma to heal from, and healing starts with you. So since you got it, it's your charge to go ahead on and make sure that you start to implement those things in your family. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Sims. We appreciate you. Thank you for showing up. All right. But okay, so now this is getting ready to be back to school time. So you already know when we get ready to go back to school, it's going to be the inculcation of this is what we want you to learn. It's our job on the other side of it, not only to make sure that they learn those things too. That's okay, but make sure that they learn stuff outside of that. right? Whether it be about your family, whether it be about your culture, I don't care. Make sure that they learn stuff outside of just what is being taught inside those walls, because that is only um, a perpetuation of the ideas that somebody wants to put in place.
Yeah, you got a point there.
That's really all it is. When they talk about education, I think we gave a definition of it last time. That talked about giving specialized ideas about stuff. It's got nothing to do with anything else that we should be learning, because that is just for a specific machine to continue to operate. So we have to operate outside of those parameters. So build a library. I keep saying it, I say it over and over and over again. Build a library. Put things in the library that are part of your cultural identity. Because they're not going to teach it in school. It's almost completely, that particular part of the programming is over with.
But we see all these abandoned schools around here. We can't open none of these up and none of
Well,
these doors.
they're not going to give you one, because the thing is, if you request one, it would be great. Because I think we talked about Dort School is right there on Hamilton and Saginaw. I would love to have that place.
Yeah.
I would love to have it. The question is, how do we fund it in order to keep it open? But I don't want anybody to tell me what to teach.
Right.
That's good, because, well, if it's part of this district, then you got to do this thing this way.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that we couldn't write a charter and charter it,
Right.
but
I get what you're saying.
But if you just give us the keys and let us do things that are going to be helpful and beneficial not only for people in the community, is that going to pose a problem? Of course it is, because then this is autonomous, and you can't have a say.
Got a point.
And that's what charter schools were supposed to be. But really, they have an agenda.
But
Charter school.
How did we get here?
How did we get here? We got here because we decided that we were going to give away our power and want to go to schools that we thought were better than us. It would have been one thing to integrate the school and then say, okay, well, I'm just going back over here. I just wanted to do it. Right. We wanted to integrate it and stay. So then it was fine for them. More money, those people that they allowed to be there, we allowed them to be there. Little Rock Nine, Ruby Bridges, a lot of other people were very courageous in that part of the struggle. But it would have been James Meredith at Mississippi State or University of Mississippi. Right. But why go and stay? Why go and stay? There was a school down south called Paul Robeson High School. Had the highest scores in the country until they pulled away the students to integrate somewhere else, and now the school is probably closed.
But look how they did Paul Robeson.
Yeah, well, he ended up wanting to be an American, and then he ended up leaving and going to die in France because he understood that he couldn't be. Yeah, Du Bois did the same thing. He went and left and died. He said, "This country's not for me. I'm going to go," and he ended up dying and becoming a citizen of Ghana and dying in Ghana, 1963. Same day as the March on Washington. The same day he died.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, should we be marching on Washington again for the water here?
What has marching got us?
Nothing.
Okay. Except for worn out shoes.
No, I get what you're saying. Oh, they say, okay, Little Mama said they have a Paul Robeson High School in Chicago.
Okay, but how well is it doing? How well is it doing academically? Because if we look at Paul Robeson as the person he was not only an athlete, but he was a superior scholar as well. Outspoken, actor. He did many things, right? So they named many schools are named after him. Well, many schools are named after persons that weren't the best friends of African people in America too.
I think they did that. Yeah, you got a point. But it's just funny that the people who didn't like him naming stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You always do that. That's being a martyr, where I'm gonna hate you and you go move somewhere else and die, and then all of a sudden I love you when you're gone. That's insanity.
in line. You can damn near go on any ML King Street in the
Yeah,
urban area. It's rough.
yeah, on purpose. It showed you what all the marching was for and the integration was for.
But how did we get tricked into it? That's the whole thing. Like I see it, but it seems like we cannot get up out of it.
Well, if at one time when we were building our cities around and we were self-sufficient, that when we talked about that, I believe last week, that got destroyed, right? You
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that there were over 600 small cities that we built, and almost every single one of them got destroyed
Mm-hmm.
by the larger society just because they felt that they could. What was your reason for deciding to build a bigger city or a little city outside of us, become self sufficient where you don't need us? So now what do we do?
Right.
Okay, so she said it was demolished in 2018 because it was academically poor.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. There's always the inner city where the poor and the blacks is at, poor whites, poor whatever. Why is always that our school system is like failing? But when you go to these affluent neighborhoods, there's like Grand Blanc or something. They be
Well, I mean, part of it is they have a level of expectations that they demand you meet, and nobody's coming in saying otherwise. Nobody's gonna know. You go take your kids at certain schools, and they have these level of expectations, and you're gonna meet them. It's not to say that we can't have the same thing, but we fall into, oh, we don't. Oh, it's okay that they don't have to. No, it's not. You have to perform. You have to be better than everybody else. See, we don't send that message anymore to our young people that you have to be better than, you have to work twice as hard as. We don't do that anymore because now we can go to wherever we want to go by school choice or whatever, and now it's we're equal, and you're not equal. Work harder than, be better than.
got a point.
Yeah, it's okay to have a 3.8, but why not? What happened to the other 2 points? Get them two, so it's a 4.0 or 4 or better.
I get what you're saying.
It's okay to be average. Okay, well, why?
But my thing is like how you been hearing these people saying they got these degrees or whatever, but how is them degrees helping your community? I can see if you coming back, just like how you've been saying, you've been trying to get a hub to help the kids.
Right.
If you coming back, taking some time, man, I'm with all. I feel like you should be getting help to get that going. But see, them the things is like you don't. It seems like they don't want for our community, just from my observation. Like when they be putting up things that have nothing that's gonna do that was gonna help the community.
Absolutely.
They'll fund these programs that not that's not gonna help.
Right.
But something that you trying to do where you just want to be able to teach the kids, fund it.
Right. No, absolutely. Because it's all, look, one thing that I've learned in how some of the game is played is you have to do stuff that's not threatening to somebody else's well-being, dollars, whatever. Instead of saying, I'm going to do these things in order to raise the consciousness and the level and the workability of a group of people that need that assistance. We don't want that. What we want to do is keep on to maintain the status quo, right?
Right. I'm with you.
And that's all it is we maintain the status quo. So as long as you're doing things that are fun and not educational, that's cool. We do, all right, we doing this. Well, they put all of that stuff out of school, and you see the need for it. I just saw that earlier today. There was a young man who said he's in the 5th grade, and I was teaching a little drum rhythm, and he couldn't count to 3. But it was rhythmic, and he couldn't count. So when I asked him if he knew his multiplication facts, he said yes. I asked a couple easy ones, he couldn't give me an answer. So then eventually I had to have some empathy and tell him I needed him to study between now and the time the school starts, because what's going to happen if he doesn't know, he's going to end up failing out
Right.
on purpose,
Right.
because people are going to be frustrated. He's going to get frustrated, and it's how the system goes.
Right.
He's going to get frustrated. Nobody's going to step in and say, let me help this young man out. Okay, wait a minute. I see there's a disconnect there. Let me help him out so he can get a foot on where he needs to be going academically, and then let me help him out. Now there may be somebody that reaches him, but most 9 times out of 10, he's gonna fall by the wayside. I got another young man that I'm trying to work with right now, and 16 years old, and he needs some help bad. Well, I'm gonna take time out of my life to help him out as long as he's dedicated to coming to get the help. But ain't nobody funding that but me. Nobody's saying, "Oh man, that's great, Miss McCants. We'll give you $10,000 to help this young man out." Because the other part about that is if you can make $55,000-$60,000 off of him behind bars because he made a choice for his life instead of educating him, really truly educating him, not just systematically, but otherwise, then that's a citizen you don't have to worry about. That's a person that's been healed and has a cure. So you can't worry about him, or you can't worry about her, or if you can't worry about them.
I get exactly what you're saying. It's just, how do we get back to it though? Because it seems like we so far from where we once were to where we at now. You know what I'm saying? It's like how we were just talking earlier, how we celebrating.
Right.
And we shouldn't be.
No, because somebody said, can I say it?
Go ahead.
How the hell are you going to tell me we're going to celebrate an area code and you're going to make a whole damn holiday out of it and then people get mad because you don't know? And I really don't care. Like any of those holidays, if everybody really goes back and look at what the true meaning of any of those holidays are,
paganism.
They're all paganism. Mm-hmm. And then some of them was where people got slaughtered and all of this other stuff. And then you're going to, but anyway.
No, I get what you're saying, but it's like I get what you're saying.
Dr. Carter G. Woodson wrote a book called Miseducation of the Negro.
Right
before he started Negro History Week, before it became Black History Month. He wrote a book called Miseducation of the Negro. This is all that it is. He went to a little college in Kentucky called Berea that took poor whites, poor Appalachian whites, and poor blacks that were formerly enslaved. And he got his bachelor's and I think his master's from there before he got his PhD from somewhere else. Yeah. So if it's not for his contributions to what we are, we have nothing to celebrate because it's like everybody's celebrating their stuff but us.
Right.
Man, we made these major contributions to the world and he got all of this other documentation to talk about what we did.
Right.
And so he's like, we have to do something to put that out there in front of people.
But see, that's what we need. Like how you got these books, you able to go to them and say these. I feel like we need that in our schools for our kids.
But what that means that we need to figure a way to pool our money, whether that be and find a building somewhere. And I don't have an issue with bringing my library to that and let it be a library, but you're going to study. Right. You're not going to be here just sitting around and playing video games. And no, this is not what this for. You do that at your place. When you come here, it's time to study. It's time to learn.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. But see, at home, you have to have a desire to want to know and do better. I get, as a teacher, I really get, it's disheartening because people have made choices that still say, well, I'm too tired to study. You can never be too tired to study. Right. You can never be too tired to study with your children. That's your most important job in the whole world. I had to explain that to a couple of beautiful women that were doctors yesterday at a lecture that I did in Saginaw, which is probably the reason why I missed most of y'all celebration, which whatever. But your job, if once you become a parent, is to make sure that the offspring that came from you and your husband or you and your mate or whatever, that they are better than what you were. And if you're not willing to do that, you should have thought about that before you decide to have them. Now, so that may sound controversial, but it is what it is. Everybody else does it. I've already explained before, the whole reason why we used to sit around at the dinner table was because of it. Now it's okay for you to go. What do you think that little kid gonna do in their room by themselves without being monitored? I'll be playing video games, which people put systems in their room. There ain't no books in there. And I'm gonna be playing video games or listening to music or whatever. You gotta sit up. What are you doing? You're looking all crazy. Sorry, y'all.
No, you got a point on that.
Yeah, no.
Start at home. How do I? It seemed like it just going. I get it, like you said, the games in there because you used to see the kids outside, but do you want your kids outside now?
And so that was done on purpose as well. And I'm liking Miss Beverly because she kidding on some points that's right on point, right? That was done on purpose too. So if you continue to contain the insanity that goes on outside,
Right.
you know, kids can't go outside and play because I'm mad at you and you mad at me and we may fight. But we're not fighting anymore with fists. We, you know,
Throwing
we shoot,
lead.
we throwing lead,
Right.
and now, and so for my child not to be harmed, that had nothing to do with you and my situation. I'm gonna keep them inside. So now, once you do that, what happens to our kids? They eat, they sit still, they get fat, and now they get diabetes, they got all this other stuff. So, could we say that it's part of the design? Makes sense to me.
And that's what I'll be thinking. Like, I think a lot of people don't really be paying attention to that. They just like how the Matrix, the movie, the Matrix,
right?
Would. How you see some people sleep, still sleep. They, you know what I'm saying? They don't understand like really what's going. Even when you looking at how the dollar is, you see how my groceries going up, but the dollar amount ain't.
Right. Yeah, I've been paying attention to that. So eventually, we'll, if allow the opportunity, we may delve into that a little bit too. That might really rattle some feathers, but we got to pay it. We're not paying attention to things.
To nothing.
We're not paying it. We're only paying attention to a few things and not everything else that goes on.
Because you know what they was tuned in to, and don't get me wrong, I like it. USA basketball. How can we even celebrate this when you seeing just using Flint as a city, poison water?
But we'll really start. We'll celebrate everything else, but don't want to do the work to correct things that are absolutely necessary right here. So we'll go and celebrate like yesterday was 8. I don't know like really who cares? I get. Why don't you just go to a park and have a big old city picnic? That's cool. Which is really what you did for yesterday. But how does that solve anything? How does that solve anything? No, because if we say that the water was bad 10 years ago, it's still bad now.
Right.
Okay, there we go. Starts at home. My mom was the toughest teacher we had. Grandma was a teacher by design, although she was a full-time housewife. That's right. That's how it's supposed to go. Right? So if you're making sure that things at home are ordered, right? So even if a person, a child has some difficulties learning a particular way, I'm not going to say disability because it's not a disability, it's learned differently. Then are there resources available to help? Absolutely. There have been many times I've offered my own time, but there are other people that we no, I promise. I'm gonna type it up and email it to him so he can put it on the show, whatever's on tomorrow. I promise you, because I did write it up. So I'm gonna add some other books to it as well. So it's gonna be about 20-25 books. Restricted, manipulating, socially engineered as tilted on our neighborhoods. Absolutely, that's true. Absolutely true.
Thanks for tapping in, Phil.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Absolutely. That's absolutely on point. Yeah, because it's been molded to create a level of entertainment and not worry about scholarship anymore. I'm not sure if we know more than what we used to. We have access to more, but I don't think we use it. And people definitely are more interested in finding things out and learning things more on the internet than they are about being able to go and sit in the library to learn things that way. So, yeah, I'm not sure if we know more. I doubt very seriously we know more. I'm not clear that if I can put myself up with the scholarship of Dr. Du Bois or um, Asa Hilliard or Dr. Ben or any of those other people that I learned from, I don't believe I'm no, I'm not. I can't say that I'm willing to admit that at all ever.
People, yeah.
No, those people, if you even look at what the schools look like back in because I'm working with a young man, oh well, he's old, a little bit older than I am, who is editing, who's writing a book on an engineer from Ford. No, we're not close to what we because we allow computers and other things instead of our own ingenuity to figure things out. So we're not nearly as knowledgeable as we used to be. Not at all. I disagree with that. I get where you're coming from, but I disagree. When you had
I just
people,
think we just got more technology now.
we have more, yeah, but the technology just made us lazy because we'll rather go and listen to a book than to go read the book. Why? Because my time is taken up.
Okay, I see what he's saying. He's saying I just mean not everybody, but a lot of how things got from where they were to where they are. Those willing to take notice are becoming more aware of.
Okay.
Oh
Well,
well, so
yeah.
Miss Beverly got a good one for you. And they did start doing this Ritalin.
Yeah. Yeah. That was just
Don't forget they
yeah.
started medicating our children. We allow classifications for a check.
But who allowed that?
Parents.
Yes. So the very same thing that we were talking about things at home is sit down with your children. And I'm saying this to you all as the year's coming up. And my daughter's a senior. And even though she doesn't live with me, I check in with her 2 or 3 times a week. I want to know what's happening. If I don't talk to her, I talk to her counselor. Hey, I want to know because if I need to come drive down there, I will take a couple of days off and I will come and see what's going on because I want to make sure everything is how I want it to be for her tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Right. So she's called me from school and said, Dad, I need some help with a problem on a question. She'll ask the teacher if she can call me. They'll call me. And if I'm not in class, I'll help out. Right. So I'm still present with even without the distance. Right. I mean, even with the distance. But we have younger people. Stop letting them go do homework in their room because you don't want to be bothered. You have to be learned just like they do. You have to. I want to know what it is that you're being taught. And if I don't agree with it, I too then can go and ask the teacher respectfully, what is this? What does this mean? How will we? What is this? I don't understand this. Can you explain it to me? But what we want to do is, well, we've listened to this insane psychology that says we can let she can go to her room and do it. I'm not gonna do my own schoolwork in my room.
Right.
We sat down at the dinner table and did it together.
And ain't that what you just was talking about last
Yeah.
Saturday?
Yeah, when we was here before, it was last Sunday. It was
right.
Saturday. That's okay. You got 8-10. That's all that's good. But I remember when I coming up, even in high school, my dad would say, "Leave your work on the table. I'll check it when I come in." I didn't want to hear that.
Right.
All I want him to do is scan it and be finished. I didn't want him to wake me up or stop me from doing whatever I was doing to come back and fix stuff. No, he worked. My mom checked the work, whatever. I think I was telling this story to somebody else. There'd be times when he may be coming home from work. I'm standing outside the door. Tell me what you learned.
Right.
Don't regurgitate it. I want to know what you learned. We're not doing any of that. We're not challenging our children to learn anything. We're just allowing them to get by and then want to complain later on when there's a problem. If you're a parent, adult. If you have children, be an adult. Adult. That's your job. Oh, I want to live my best life. Sorry. Once you have a child, your life changes and it's over with.
Thank
the
you.
job of your child. What do they say? From cradle to the grave.
Yes,
That's your
sir.
job.
Right.
Not I want to go live my best. Even when they're in college.
Not even when they're 18, it ever
No,
stops.
it doesn't stop until it stops.
Until getting that dirt through over
right.
you. It's when
and
it's
then,
over.
And then I'm still there.
Right. From the lessons that you gave.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I've seen, I'll never be like, I'm so glad I'm as much like my father as I could possibly be. I don't know what to do.
I don't know why people be wanting to run away from that.
Because it's because I want my child to have what I didn't have when I was coming up.
And look what we got now.
And now look what you turned out. You turned out children that got $300 tennis shoes that can't play basketball because you want to appease that BS with them instead of making them go buy $300 worth of books so they can learn.
No, I mean that. Listen, that is facts. What you just saying, because it don't make sense. I'll be shook when I be hearing, like, even just not trying to pick on no kids. I understand what's going on, but how can you even say you got kids graduating, reading?
I don't even, man, don't.
Like it's no way I could. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's impossible. That child, no child left behind. Are you crazy to keep pushing the kid through?
Yeah, absolutely. Because then what you do, then at that point is then you can condemn the district that a child comes from and condemn the teachers because you put a child in that never had the skills. But what also is not happening, and you're right, genetic memory, absolutely right. But also what's not happening is there's a lack of connection between the teachers and the parents in order to make sure, hey, look, I know, but me and you, we got to be on the same page. What do you?
But then
what
again,
are we doing?
There's also a lack of connection between the teacher and the student.
Does nobody care nothing about y'all? No, I'm just playing. And that's true as well, because many times the teacher's there just to teach and be finished.
Right.
And let me get this done and over with, instead of being available to teach and be available. Now, that's a big burden depending upon where you are.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When I've taught high school, and still to this day, some of the adults that I had when I was teaching before, I still hear from them or see them, or we may be friends on social media and we'll cross each other and, oh, such and such graduated and my child graduated and this is my teacher and now that was your teacher. Oh, and that's a beautiful cycle, but it's still a lot to carry, especially when, somebody is wants you to be part of their life like that. And I'm happy to be still part of a lot of my students' life. That's great. And I understand what your point is as a student, but not everybody's going to connect to everybody. Right. Sometimes people try, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's, hey, I just need you to get this lesson the best way you can. Yes, and they may not care nothing about connecting to you.
No, you're right. It's just comparing now to then. Me and my cousin, we was laughing about it. I was telling him, I said, you couldn't be a coach in this era.
Oh, no.
I told him, I said he couldn't. Because I just know, I know two of them. I said, you couldn't. I said, how we grew up with because he had Mo Lace and I had Mr. Span. Like, we were just naming all the old coaches. I'm like, dude, could you? I said, Bill Parcells, the tuner, who I love. Just like with Belichick, they got rid of him because that old coach, that tough love, you can't do that now.
Man, that's because we've gotten soft in society across the board, let alone be soft in our own community. Yes, and the thing is if you're in a deficit, how can you still be soft?
Right.
But we want to be soft because you're being too hard on my kid. You're being too rough on my kid. You can't fuss at my kid. You can't do. Then he can't play for me.
And because if you say something, they to me it's saying like, nah, they coddled.
Oh, super coddled. But the coddling wants to be taking place all the way across the board. I was told I was being too hard on students. Right.
Right.
And then when I changed how I approached them, now all of a sudden, they running you over. But wait a minute, you was the one that just said I was being too hard a couple of months ago. So from not moving forward, no, you get Mr. McCants from back to the day when I taught at Beecher.
Right.
Right. You get him. You don't get this. I'm not that new guy. I'm never going to be, because if I see you tomorrow
Right.
and I see that you may choose the wrong path, I'm not interested in, well, if you save only one, I've done my job.
And that's crazy.
That is insanity.
Yeah.
That's insanity.
I do.
Save them all. Now, if
Right.
one of them decide to jump out of the net, that's on them.
Right. But why not? I do. I don't be liking that when they say, well, we just get 1 or 2. What you mean 1 or 2? So you gonna let the other 98 suffer?
All of them got to go.
Right.
Because you just chose to focus on the 2. Yeah. That's unfair.
Yeah, unfair. Well, okay, you got 98. If I got the 98 in line, maybe I can go out and go get them 2 and get them back on, because the 98 is on. They ain't together.
Right.
You know, but it seems like we be more backwards.
We want to, again, raise our children with something that we never had. I want to make sure, I've heard this, where I want to make sure that all the things I didn't get, my kid gets.
Facts.
But where about that? How do they earn it? If their paycheck is from 8 or 7:30 to 3:30 or 8:30 to 4 o'clock, that's the time that they work.
Facts.
If they come home with D's and E's, why are you rewarding them anyway?
Listen,
they're fired.
Right. With a 1.5 and he got Jordan and he can't even dunk the ball. Why aren't you wearing Jordan?
Well, because once again, I'll buy my child to be better. That's not going to do it.
And he's still pulling a 1.5.
He's still pulling a 1.5. Disruption in class.
Right.
Can't read. Can't do math. Can't do the basic stuff. Right. Can't do any of the basic stuff that's required by any district, so that they can do something. And yet, guess whose basement they're gonna live in? Because they ain't living in mine.
Right. And then you finna push them out to society.
You're gonna push them out to society, wondering the reason why he and or she is not capable of competing, because you're not demanding that they compete.
You gave them no tools, as they call it, the skills to survive.
Where's the toolbox? Right. You got the toolbox, but you ain't put nothing in it.
Right.
You just got the box.
Right. And
then you want to challenge the person trying to put tools in a toolbox. Yeah. And then you get mad because we're gonna put tools in a toolbox. I don't care if you have to learn how to get a piece of metal and tap it with a hammer until you make a screwdriver. Right. Then that's how you got to learn. Keep hitting the metal.
Because a lot of time they having babies by boys. And
I'm
just gonna be honest. Because you in your 20s, if you ain't, and I do feel this, man. I get it. Y'all might don't work it out, but you still supposed to be in your kid life, regardless. When, like you said, when you made that kid,
you have to be an adult now.
If you wanted to be free, shouldn't have had no baby.
Right.
If you wanted to be free, you wanted to live that life. There's plenty of things, self-protection that you could have did, but once it's here,
it's over with.
You gotta put what you know what I'm saying, because you being selfish. That's what I think a lot of these fathers been selfish.
Both on both sides.
And the mother the parents that coddle them though. Don't get me wrong, because Granny, I just drop him off over here when really he should be there with his kid.
Right.
And not just
right. No, you're right. No, it's also lack of effort, Mr. Johnson. I see it every day. I've seen it for 28 years. Right. Lack of preparation. I got it. But if you don't even try hard, I remember a student I had years ago. This young man could not write and separate words, right? He couldn't separate the letters. So it was all one long, he might put his periods in there, but everything was jammed up. So everything was jammed up. But his stories that he wrote were wonderful stuff. And there were some teachers that got frustrated because he didn't know how, he didn't have what they call spatial learning to separate the words. Mm-hmm. Read the story anyway. It's taking me too long. I don't want to take that long to read the story. Give it here, I'll read it. And you read, and the stories were absolutely amazing. Mm. Absolutely amazing. Even tried to get him to type it up, same stuff. but the stories were absolutely amazing. But the mere fact that he had it in him to write these stories, right? He put the effort in. So what do you give him? You don't give him a C because he couldn't separate it because the way his brain is wired. Eventually, we had to teach him how to get I think I took a paper clip and opened it up and made him use that to separate the words a little bit.
Right.
It worked some, but the stories. So you got to give him an A for the work.
Right.
You're not gonna fail him because of that. You know, preparation and effort goes both ways. And you're absolutely right. But still, if we're not doing the preparation from the beginning, right from the beginning, you can't wait till 4th, 5th grade. It's too late then.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah, you can't wait. It's got to be from the moment that they're conceived. I remember, again, a personal story, playing drums with my son. He's 23 now, and I'd always be playing, and there he goes. You see him move back and forth in his mom, right?
My brother is the best drummer
Right.
I know.
Right. I mean, he's really good, but that's probably my fault because I was playing drums around him, and this is all he heard all his life. So that was before his birth. That was in utero. I used to read to them, right? And I didn't read Cat in the Hat or whatever. I read a book on genetics, and I remember the teacher in her Head Start class, I'm gonna get in a second. In her Head Start class, says she goes to the board and draws this picture of a cell on the board, almost perfect at 3, 4. Because I explained while I'm reading this book what the mitochondria is, and but we have to do that. That's old school stuff.
Right. That's just what that question is. What you was talking about.
You know, that's old school stuff. Nowadays, parents see school. Yeah, it's daycare. You're absolutely right. It is whatever. But here's the thing: if you're gonna see it as daycare, then allow me to discipline too.
Right.
Don't just tell me you can't do nothing to my child because it's daycare and I'm getting paid less than daycare wages, but I have to deal with this kid's mess because as a parent, you're gonna back that child up.
Sure is.
But you know this kid out of order.
Right.
You know good and well that child's out of order, but you're gonna send them there anyway. And then they expect somebody not to say nothing. Or get to the point where I know who that is. That's the school of Mr. McCants, so I'm not gonna answer it.
Yeah, good brother Elliott. I know what you're saying because I was in the school system. I seen how it was. I seen parents. How you gonna let your kid come to school? You know he smoke weed just because you allow it. Now I don't care. Like I do agree. Every household is different. I'm not gonna tell you how to run your household, as long as you ain't telling me how to run mine. But how you do yours, it shouldn't. How you run it, it shouldn't come into where they going. Like I done never understood that. I get what you're saying. Then when a teacher would be calling to the parent, I watched the parent get mad.
Get mad because I called you.
Because he's smelling like weed.
Right.
And you was mad.
Right. And you had something to do with it.
But what he said, my mother let me do it. I was like, damn, they basically telling on the parent, like, dude, you get your mama sent to jail.
Right.
She don't supposed to be letting you do this.
No.
But to me, it was like, damn, like this for parents, y'all just.
And so we have, and dealing with that. Now, when we were talking about earlier, there's certain school districts that they never gonna deal with that. Guess what you're gonna do? Get your kid, get up out of here.
Right.
Get your kid and go.
You got a point there. I'll be confused, but I feel like, but we should be more on that though. But it's in like in the Black community, we want to let so much stuff slide.
Yeah.
And it's like, why is we in other communities, they don't let that slide.
Nothing. They let absolutely nothing slide.
We let it slide.
Yeah. Because we're not interested in really doing the work to play catch up. What we want to do or get ahead, because it's not that hard. This much discipline, that much. We ain't talking about a foot.
Right.
We ain't talking about a quarter inch. Hey, sit down. I want you to make sure you know your spelling words. Hey, sit down. I want to see you write a sentence. Hey, sit down. I want to see you write a paragraph. Hey, how long does that take? Oh, you don't want to do it? Then you're going to sit there.
Right.
You're going to sit there till I get it. Or, sometimes you got to use a real old school tactic. Dinner be ready when you finish with your work. Until then, you won't eat.
Right.
I had it happen to me.
Me too.
Right. So
Gonna
because
do it.
we're being old school and traditional, like, then those things make people, oh, y'all being too hard. You being too okay. All right. I just don't get the fact that when you're behind the 8 ball and you're falling off the table
Right.
and you still want to act like everything's okay and everything's equal. I don't care nothing about going to sit at the same restaurant as people. I
Right.
necessarily don't want to go there in the first place. But academically, I know I'm supposed to be superior. So
Right.
therefore, if I don't put the effort and time and energy into being superior, whose fault is that? That's my parents' fault.
Like Miss Beverly said, you didn't die, then you did the work you ate.
And I did the work in 8. You already know it. So I remember getting in trouble at school and had to go sweep rain. But go sweep the rain up.
Yeah.
And guess what? I never did it again.
Right.
I didn't do that. I did something else.
Right. But you
But I
find
didn't do
some
that.
new stuff to
Yeah.
do.
Oh, I found
Right.
something new to do.
Right.
Oh, you want to do that? Okay, no problem.
Right.
Your grade's great, but you're still doing dumb stuff.
Right.
Okay, go catch all the snowflakes.
Right.
Huh? You
Right.
gonna catch all? No gloves. Go
Right.
catch all the snowflakes.
Right.
Since you want to play.
Yeah. But
Guess
then-
how many snowflakes I caught? But then when I had them in my hand, there was water. You didn't catch them. Go
Right.
back out there. But see, we don't want to play them game. We on a reason.
Right.
There's no reason. You're not going to eat until you get your schoolwork done.
Because my thing is why they doing that, because guess what happened when you get into the system? Then they beat you.
Man, listen.
You know what
Either
I'm
you're
saying?
dead or you're in jail, and
Yeah.
then you got that 3 hots in the cot, and then you want to sit there and complain and cry when people might be getting sentenced. Oh, sweetie. Hey.
Yeah,
Nuh-uh.
what you mad about? That'll be my thing. Like, that's why I didn't understand this. I can't discipline my kid, but when you get a hold to him, you do more than discipline, or sometimes you might kill him.
That's part of the system, though. That's part of the system. So we bought into that.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm not gonna discipline them because they called 911. I said, I don't understand how you're gonna call 911. You got no hands.
Right.
And, like what? You call them, but you ain't gonna have no hands to call them. I don't know. You're gonna use your tongue, your nose. I don't know what you're gonna do. But that's just kind of reverse psychology.
Yeah.
You're like, well, you know what? Maybe this is not
Right.
as maybe I need to straighten up. I
Yeah.
don't need to do that. I'm looking at my hands like, I mean, and I'm not saying anything that I didn't have said to me.
Me neither.
Go sweep up the rain. Are you serious?
Right.
Go sweep rocks. What? And then the wind blows, it leaves right back on the rocks.
Oh, the discipline back then was way better than
Man, I had to cut grass at night with a flashlight, and the lines better be straight. And they weren't. And so guess what? 4 o'clock in the morning, you right back out there, tighten them lines up.
Oh,
And them
man.
lines better be straight.
And we was getting that from my granny.
Man.
Like I remember the stitcher cord coming.
Listen.
She didn't say twice.
Listen, I'm gonna say this real quick, and I know we gotta set it down. I had somebody come by because it's been raining, right?
Mhm.
My grass got long. I cut part of it, but didn't get cut the rest of it because it started raining a lot over the last week or whatever. Why? And I knew who it was a note on my windshield that said, your grass is getting long. This wasn't no young neighbor. This is from old school neighbor that knew my mom and daddy now. Your grass getting long. Guess what I did the next day? Even in the heat.
Got on it.
Got on there and went out there and cut down. I ain't asked nobody. Hey man, come here. You want to earn? Nope. Let me go cut this grass. So we get away from all of that because we want to have a new life for our children. And then when we start talking about levels of success versus where other groups of people,
sir.
and we want to get away from that because we want them to have the best things and the iPads and the iPhones and the shoes and the Nike joints and this and that and other. They have earned nothing of it. Tell me how much we gotten better than.
I seen one of them too. Didn't do no more calling. I'm gonna do this and that. Also, I watched.
I got threatened.
I
Ooh.
saw my granny.
No.
I didn't know. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
so this what we've been playing against.
Yeah, I got in trouble one good time.
And let me
My
know.
mom said,
I
she
was
said,
I watched her handle it. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, no.
Ain't the woman I grew up to make the sweet potato pie.
Yeah, no, she said.
No,
She's taking names.
She said, I'm going to pluck the hairs off the back of your neck one by one. And if you call 911, I'm going to do the same thing to the police.
Yeah, no, see, but I was, who did I said, make 2 phone calls.
Never again.
Call 911, then call a funeral home. Because by the time they get here, you're going to be dead. Make sure you order your casket size and order your suit. And I'm not paying for it. Huh? Wait a minute. What? I'm good. Now, what kind of punishment you want me to do? You want me to go kiss the rocks? And that meant that you're going to be over them rocks like this, holding that diamond. And they made good men and good women out of it.
Yeah. The conversations back then, they meant what they said.
They meant what they said. Go over there and kiss them rocks.
Yeah.
My
granny was over yonder. I couldn't stand that.
Oh boy.
I was be like over yonder.
Man, dictionaries.
Yeah.
Not only did you gonna write out of it, but you're gonna hold it up over your head. So when he hits you upside the head, you're gonna learn something. Yeah. Wait a second. Okay. I'm straight.
Yeah.
I'm straight. I'm good.
Yeah.
Send us home.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. Hopefully you all learned some tips about just make sure our children are prepared for school. Make sure that you take a few minutes of your day when they come home from school to check on their schoolwork. Make sure you start to, I promise, Miss Beverly that said something about the book. I got you. I promise. I'm going to send it to him very, very soon. I already got it written out. I just got to type it up and send it to him in a text or email so that you all have a book list. I promise. But build your libraries. Build your libraries. Read with your children. Read to your children. Make sure that they're doing their schoolwork. Not just scan up. Let them tell you what they've learned. Look over it before they go to bed or before you go to bed. And we appreciate you all. All right. Thank you very much for having us today. My brother, Big Mick. My daughter's here. My niece is here. My name is Elliott McCants. We will see you all now next week. I promise we're going to have the one that Miss my sister Muhammad, Sister Audrey Muhammad had been talking about. We're going to have one on the resistance movements that we had in during a period where we were being held captive here in this country. Yeah, I promise. We're going to do that next time. All right, family, we appreciate you all. This is 810. Y'all have a great one.
Peace, family.
Peace.